Good morning everybody, and end of the week, Friday. Who could believe that's another week, but hopefully next week we'll hear a wee bit more of being able to get out and about. I know that some people are a wee bit wary still of going out and about, and quite rightly so, but I think a lot of other people are hoping to get back some kind of normality into life, and I think most people like me, it'll be first shot for the hairdressers. Bill's threatening now to cut my hair off during the night when I'm sleeping, so if I appear one morning and my hair's all more higgledy-piggledy than usual, then you know that's what's happened. But bear in mind, he is going to do it with the kitchen scissors. You can perhaps understand why I've said under no circumstances. I know a lot of people have resorted to getting somebody in the house to cut their hair, and they've probably done a good job, but bear in mind, got a bowly haircut anyway, don't want to make it any worse, so hope that at least you're managing to keep your hair tidy, if not cut. So we've been looking this week at the story of Joseph, and the story still has more to go, and on another note from that, I was looking forward to going to see the Glasgow Theatre Guild in October, who were doing Joseph as their show, but unfortunately, like everything else, that's had to be cancelled, but hopefully they'll be doing that next year, so that's too bad. Another thing that folk were looking forward to has unfortunately had to be cancelled, as many things have had to be cancelled lately. So Joseph, we're reading today Genesis chapter 41, and this is quite a long chapter, but I think since it's Friday you'll just have to put up with all, and it's entitled Joseph Interprets the King's Dreams. After 2 years had passed, the king of Egypt dreamt that he was standing by the Nile River, when 7 cows, fat and sleek, came up out of the river and began to feed on the grass. Then 7 other cows came up. They were thin and bony. They came up and stood by the other cows on the river bank, and the thin cows ate up the fat cows. Then the king woke up. He fell asleep again and had another dream. 7 heads of grain, full and ripe, were growing on one stalk. Then 7 other heads of grain sprouted, thin and scorched by the desert wind, and the thin heads of grain swallowed the full ones. The king woke up and realised that he had been dreaming. In the morning he was worried, so he sent for all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. He told them his dreams, but no one could explain them to him. Then the wine steward said to the king, "I must confess today that I have done wrong. You were angry with the chief baker and me, and you put us in prison in the house of the captain of the guard. One night each of us had a dream, and the dreams had different meanings. A young Hebrew was there with us, a slave of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he interpreted them for us. Things turned out just as he said. You restored me to my position, but you executed the baker." The king sent for Joseph, and he was immediately brought from the prison. After he had shaved and changed his clothes, he came into the king's presence. The king said to him, "I have had a dream, and no one can explain it. I have been told that you can interpret dreams." Joseph answered, "I cannot, your majesty, but God will give a favourable interpretation." The king said, "I dreamt that I was standing on the bank of the Nile when 7 cows, fat and sleek, came up out of the river and began to feed on the grass. Then 7 other cows came up, which were thin and bony. They were the poorest cows I have ever seen anywhere in Egypt. The thin cows ate up the fat ones, but no one would have known it because they looked just as bad as before. Then I woke up. I also dreamed that I saw 7 heads of grain, which were full and ripe, growing on one stalk. Then 7 heads of grain sprouted, thin and scorched by the desert wind, and the thin heads of grain swallowed the full ones. I told the dreams to the magicians, but none of them could explain them to me." Joseph said to the king, "The true dreams mean the same thing. God has told you what he is going to do. The 7 fat cows are 7 years, and the 7 full heads of grain are also 7 years. They have the same meaning. The 7 thin cows which came up later, and the 7 thin heads of grain scorched by the desert wind, are 7 years of famine. It is just as I told you. God has shown you what he is going to do. There will be 7 years of great plenty in all the land of Egypt. After that there will be 7 years of famine, and all the good years will be forgotten, because the famine will ruin the country. The time of plenty will be entirely forgotten, because the famine which follows will be so terrible. The repetition of your dream means that the matter is fixed by God, and he will make it happen in the near future. Now you should choose a man with some wisdom and insight and put him in charge of the country. You must also appoint other officials and take 1/5 of the crops during the 7 years of plenty. Order them to collect all the food during the good years that are coming, and give them authority to store up grain in the cities and guard it. The food will be a reserve supply for the country during the 7 years of famine which are going to come on Egypt. In this way the people will not starve. The king and the officials approved this plan, and they said to him, "We will never find a better man than Joseph, a man who has God's spirit in him." The king said to Joseph, "God has shown you all this, so it's obvious that you have a greater wisdom and insight than anyone else. I will put you in charge of my country and all my people will obey your orders. Your authority will be second only to mine. I now appoint you governor over all Egypt." The king removed from his finger the ring engraved with the royal seal and put it on Joseph's finger. He put a fine linen robe on him and placed a gold chain around his neck. He gave him the 2nd royal chariot to ride in, and his guard of honour went ahead of him and cried out, "Make way, make way." And so Joseph was appointed governor over all Egypt. And so we'll stop there, and if you want you can read on the rest of that chapter and find out what happened. I'm sure everybody knows the story of Joseph, but you can read on to the end of chapter 41 and beyond with the story of Joseph. So God bless this reading of his word. Great stories in Genesis. That's a few we've had recently, and we'll keep on going with stories next week. So Friday today, weekend coming up. No message from me tomorrow, you'll be very glad to hear. And Sunday, don't forget our church service will be on the Facebook pages and also our church website at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. So please join in and worship along with us. If you don't manage at 11 o'clock, it will be there from 11 o'clock. You can see at any time on Sunday. Enjoy the weekend. I think the weather's supposed to not be so good. It's not looking so good at the minute. But have a good day today. Have a good weekend. Phone us if you need anything. Any problem, give us a wee call and we'll help you out. Other than that, see you on Monday. Hooray! Bye.